Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this because if we're actually going to limit global warming and hit those international climate targets, we are facing an absolutely massive challenge: decarbonizing heavy industry. We're talking about massive scale sectors like steel manufacturing, cement production, and long-haul shipping. These are areas where, frankly, simply plugging a cable into an electric grid just isn't feasible or affordable. To get true, deep decarbonization here, we need an energy carrier that has incredibly high density and flexible storage. Essentially, we need hydrogen. But as you'll see, we don't just need any hydrogen. Today, we're going to explore the ultimate clean energy carrier and unpack the epic rivalry and eventual, game-changing alliance between the two renewable heavyweights that can actually produce it: solar and wind power. Now, you might be thinking hydrogen is already this futuristic, perfectly clean fuel, right? Well, take a look at the sheer scale of the problem we're currently facing. In 2023, the global demand for hydrogen hit a staggering 97 million tons. But here's the shocker. A massive 95% of that was derived directly from heavily polluting fossil fuels. We're talking primarily about coal gasification and steam methane reforming, which both release massive amounts of carbon dioxide straight into the atmosphere. That tiny little remaining 5% fraction, that's low-emission hydrogen. So to put that into perspective, this highlights an enormous, literally world-changing gap we have to close if hydrogen is going to actually help us reach our climate goals. So understanding exactly what kind of hydrogen we actually need is absolutely critical here. You'll hear a lot of colors thrown around in this industry. Gray hydrogen is that standard, highly polluting fossil fuel method we just talked about. Then there's blue hydrogen, which attempts to fix the gray method by tacking on carbon capture and storage. But if you look at the life cycle assessments, capture inefficiencies and leakage rates can actually severely undermine its climate benefits. And that brings us to the main event: green hydrogen. This is hydrogen produced by splitting water using strictly renewable electricity. The result? Near zero operational greenhouse gas emissions. It is literally the gold standard, the one fuel capable of operating as a zero carbon carrier for those super hard to decarbonize industries. Okay, so how does green hydrogen actually work? Well, it all comes down to the basic chemistry of electrolysis. Basically, you run an electric current through water, H2O, to split it into its base components, hydrogen and oxygen. Sounds simple enough, right? But it's an incredibly energy-intensive process. In the real world, because of energy losses and system demands, you're going to need roughly 50 to 60 kilowatt hours of electrical energy just to produce a single kilogram of hydrogen gas. And on the mass side, you need about 9 to 12 liters of highly purified water for that same kilogram. So the ultimate environmental performance of this whole operation is entirely dictated by where you're getting that massive amount of electricity from in the first place. Section 1. Solar versus wind electrolysis. Since we need colossal amounts of clean electricity to scale up green hydrogen, we have to turn to the most developed and economically viable renewables we currently have. So let's look at the tail of the tape between our two heavyweight champions, solar photovoltaics and wind turbines. In one corner, solar. The resource is incredibly abundant, but it's diurnal, meaning, of course, it only works during the daytime. It also demands a massive land footprint, which means vast solar arrays could end up competing with agriculture or natural ecosystems. In the other corner, wind power. Modern onshore wind turbines achieve capacity factors of 30 to 45%, and offshore projects routinely smash past 50%. That means they are operating closer to their maximum potential way more often than solar. But wind is variable, and building offshore demands incredibly expensive, complex infrastructure like subsea cables and heavy-duty, corrosion-resistant materials. When we break down the projected financial targets for 2030, a really clear picture starts to emerge. Solar's aiming for a highly competitive levelized cost of hydrogen, or LCOH, of about $1.50 to $2 per kilogram in super sunny areas. But because it goes to sleep at night, the overall system efficiency is only hovering around 10 to 15%. Wind, on the other hand, is targeting a slightly higher LCOH of $2 to $2.50 per kilogram. But here's the kicker. Because the wind blows much more consistently, day and night, the electrolyzers are utilized way more frequently, and that pushes the system efficiency higher, up to roughly 12 to 18%. What's really fascinating is how geography is literally dictating the technology being used. Just look at these major real-world demonstration projects. Over in Japan, the FH2R project uses a 10-megawatt solar array hooked up to a flexible electrolyzer, perfectly capitalizing on their steady solar availability. Meanwhile, in Northern Europe, the focus is almost entirely offshore. Germany's H2MAR flagship project is actually integrating offshore wind turbines directly with electrolyzers right out in the ocean. And the UK's Dolphin project is taking that even a step further, deploying floating offshore wind platforms that use onboard seawater desalination and electrolysis, and then pipe the pure hydrogen directly back to the coast. Moving on to Section 2, the hybrid power solution. Okay, here is where the narrative takes a really fascinating turn. Because instead of a winner-takes-all battle between these two renewable giants, engineers have figured out that solar and wind are actually the perfect tag team partners. Combining them elegantly solves the single biggest problem with renewables: intermittency. Think about it. Solar power ramps up during the day, right? But wind frequently follows daily and seasonal patterns that peak precisely when the sun goes down, or during the darker winter months. By combining both inputs, you smooth out that energy supply curve. You end up feeding a continuous, much more stable stream of direct current into the electrolyzer. And that is absolutely critical, because constantly starting and stopping the equipment can degrade it and severely lower your efficiency. The real payoff here is the massive impact this has on capacity factors. By hybridizing solar and wind, these systems can achieve capacity factors of up to 70%. That means the electrolyzers are running almost consistently, which amortizes those massive capital costs and drastically lowers the final cost of the green hydrogen. And this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. Look at the Asian Renewable Energy Hub in Australia. It's a mega project combining 26 gigawatts of wind and solar specifically to produce export-ready green hydrogen and ammonia around the clock. Section 3. India's solar hydrogen breakthrough. So we've looked at massive gigawatt-scale wind farms and sprawling desert solar arrays. But for a minute, let's zoom all the way in, from the macro scale down to the microscopic molecular level. Because a really exciting next-generation device has just emerged out of Bengaluru, India. A research team led by Dr. Ashutosh K. Singh at the Center for Nano and Soft Matter Sciences, which is an autonomous institute under India's Department of Science and Technology, has achieved a huge leap forward. They've developed a device that completely bypasses the need for massive, bulky external electrolyzers. Instead, they are splitting water molecules directly, using nothing but solar energy and earth-abundant materials. That means no expensive rare metals and definitely no fossil fuels. To actually pull this off, the team designed what's called a state-of-the-art silicon-based photoanode, using an innovative NIP heterojunction architecture. It sounds complex, but essentially it's like a highly engineered sandwich. They stacked 3 specific layers: a bottom N-type titanium dioxide layer, a middle layer of pure undoped silicon, and a top P-type nickel oxide semiconductor. They deposit all these materials using a process called magnetron sputtering, which is great because it's a highly scalable, industry-ready manufacturing technique. This perfectly orchestrated stack allows for brilliant light absorption and incredibly fast charge transport, all while significantly reducing energy loss. And the performance metrics absolutely prove that this isn't just a fleeting lab trick. The device achieved an excellent surface photovoltage of 600 millivolts, and it requires an incredibly low energy input to jumpstart the reaction, just 0.11 volts. But crucially, it demonstrated exceptional long-term stability. We're talking continuous operation for over 10 hours in harsh alkaline conditions, with only a tiny 4% drop in performance. That is a really rare feat for silicon-based systems. Plus, they've already successfully scaled it up to a 25 square centimeter photoanode, proving this kind of decentralized, cost-effective technology is truly ready to step out of the lab. As Dr. Singh noted, combining smart materials into these kinds of heterostructures brings us one massive step closer to affordable, large-scale solar-to-hydrogen systems for both homes and massive factories alike. And it really leaves us with a profound realization. To save our planet's future, we are essentially turning back to its most ancient elemental forces: sun, wind, and water, all harnessed through some truly breathtaking technological innovation. So will these very elements be the ultimate key to our net zero future? It is a fascinating thought to leave you with today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the horizon.